horror fans, and welcome to another episode of Silver Screams. Tonight we are talking about MTV Scream Season 2, Episode 10.
We're close, guys. They're starting to kill our suspects, so that's how we know we're close.
So much for Zoe being evil. I almost put in the description of the last video, too. Zoe's probably evil, and I'm really glad I didn't, because I would have looked really stupid in hindsight. It's a good thing that the internet isn't a forever catalog of my archived life, digitally speaking.
Boy, the Wayback Machine would like to disagree.
Oh, Lord in heaven. But yeah, so sorry, Zoe. I'm sorry I thought you were evil.
Well, and even up to the point we had this little text message conversation going on, and it's like, you know, all this happy music, and I'm sitting there going, I don't trust it. I absolutely do not trust any of this.
Nope.
And it's like, either this is legit and the show is playing us, she's a Ghostface and she's screwing with him, or Ghostface has her phone and is screwing with him, and it turned out to be the third
definitely
option.
Turned out to be one of those options. And the moment he got stabbed, too, I was like, no! Because this is the second episode where the audience has been tortured almost for the entirety of the episode at the idea of Noah potentially dying. And when he got stabbed, I'm like, that is so cruel.
That's good. That's that. And I think my words were the Randy never survives the second movie.
And it's true.
He survived so far.
And they've already established, both with Jake and with Branson, that a character can be put in really bad shape at the beginning of the episode, survive that initial encounter, suffer throughout the entirety, and then still die at the end. Still die at the end horribly for seemingly no reason. And so knowing those two people suffered, you know, again, kind of similar beats, it was really hard to watch.
For Branson, though, I feel like there were actually further plans for him.
No, definitely. That is something that went, whoops.
Yeah, no, I feel like there were further plans for him, and then when the janitor thwarted things, he went, well, I can't go down that avenue anymore, so you're no longer useful, so tub and fire.
Go die in a fire, yeah.
But I feel like there was a reason beyond what we saw for Branson and the taking of the hand, and because otherwise it's like, well, this just kind of goes to a stop.
Yeah.
Like, thank goodness for the janitor.
Yeah, no, there were...
The janitor is the hero of this story.
Janitor is if he had been there, Zoe would still be alive.
I just keep thinking of the Nostalgia Critic review of Devil.
Was that Crazy Toast guy?
No. I'm thinking of the wrong one. Paranormal Activity 2.
Why are you thinking of the Nostalgia?
Mexican Nanny! Like saving the day.
Me and my friend Thea always said that the little pool vacuum was the unsung hero of that story. Oh yeah. Because that little pool vacuum just kept trucking. He just kept trucking through the whole movie.
I'm just thinking of Critic and Mexican Super Nanny.
It was the bum specifically.
It was
a magical little bit of jump cut editing. It was beautiful. Point being, we need someone to be the unsung hero of this story because our suspects are dropping like flies. Our well-beloved cast are coming dangerously close to death. We still don't have a ton of answers, so we need a janitor or a Hispanic nanny or just, I don't know, a random passerby. Someone to be the unsung hero of this story, to just swoop in, accidentally thwart Ghostface plans, and save the day. How great would that be if, like, some just bumbling person who had nothing to do with anything just ran into Ghostface at the wrong time and completely sabotaged this entire Xanatos gambit.
You know what I really want?
What?
I want like a coalition of all of the NPCs in the background. Not the ones who are important enough to die, but the janitor and one of the other baristas at the place where Emma works.
The girl at the party who's like, thanks for throwing the party!
Yeah, the girl at the party! One of the teachers in the other classes that isn't quite as important. Like the one that told him maybe not to hang around in the empty classroom. Like,
hey!
I want this coalition of people who were important enough for a line or two, but not actually important enough to be named. Like, you got your SAG card and that's it. I want them to be the heroes. I want them to band together and thwart Ghostface.
You want them to pull an end of the original Spider-Man?
Yes!
The New Yorkers rise up against the Green Goblin.
And that was the best part of Spider-Man. Like, hands down, that was the best scene in that movie.
But yeah, you just want all these NPCs to just march towards Ghostface and put a stop to this nonsense?
Yes!
That would be hilarious
I want all of these
and very
NPCs
unexpected.
to be completely done with this shit. Because it's not like NPCs.
Yeah, just have like a group of them and then just have one of them, hey, Brooke is right! We should do something! We're a garbage town!
I feel like the NPCs in stories like this, you have NPCs in monster movies or zombie movies or whatever, those NPCs are dead. Like, that's just a thing that happens because you have a larger supernatural force whose point is to kill. Movies like this, where you have a slasher flick that isn't a supernatural or mindless villain, someone with a goal, someone with a vendetta, someone who wants revenge, they always have a very specific, there's a very specific formula. And specific formula! Yeah, I know, we went there.
Because of course we did.
And very rarely do the people outside of the formula get specifically targeted. However, they are forever affected just by being there because it's the town that's affected and it's their friend or their partner in chemistry or whatever.
Or their sibling.
Or their sibling or someone that gets killed. And so even if you're not a main character in this story, it's still fucking up your life.
Yeah.
It's messed with people you care about, or one of your parents lost their job because of something, or doesn't come home for days and days and days because they're a sheriff's deputy and they were never in the line of fire, but the paperwork is insane. Just something like that. So I want these people who are not important enough for the murderer to be concerned with, but are still getting fucked over by the murderer's presence in their vicinity, to show up and be like, you know what, fuck you. We're done. We're done. We are ending you now because we are sick of this shit.
We need to stop
I think I just wrote a horror movie.
I was going to say, we need to stop putting these videos on YouTube and we need to just start sitting down and writing these because... How great would that be? And that's a great twist. That's a great twist. It is, again, it's the ending of Spider-Man.
Again, in the same way, with Spider-Man, you have all the New Yorkers banding together and going,
hey, Green Goblin, cut it out!
We're absolutely sick of your shit, and it actually made a difference. It wasn't the big final climax, but it made a difference. And that was so refreshing to be like, look at all these people who are being affected by what's happening, even though they're not the target. It's an actual good look at, hey, this affects more than just the people in masks. And I want that in a horror movie because we almost never get that.
No, we usually don't. It's always about the final girl, or it's always about, the
survivors, the victims, the vendetta of the killer, the supernatural, whatever.
Whatever that's causing
always
this.
Something else that
the
gets
phenomenal
the
cosmic power that's causing this random person to be undead and murder other people.
So, and it's like, you never see it affect anyone else. You never see anyone else say, oh no, they had the group project was saved on their hard drive, now I have to redo the whole thing by myself because that's police evidence and I'm not going to get it back.
Damn you, Ghostface! If I get a C in chemistry because of you!
You never see, like, I'm not allowed to go out at night anymore. I had to give up the night shifts. I lost my night job because my parents think it's not safe for me to be out anymore and they don't want me driving home after dark. You don't see stuff like that, and that's a logical conclusion for a parent to come to. We're a small town and people are getting murdered a hell of a lot.
Completely unrelated to that, but kind of in the same vein. There's an episode of Gargoyles, talking about Xanatos. There's an episode of Gargoyles where what appeared to be a random background character kept like popping up in all these different episodes, and if you're just watching it, it's just reused character animation.
Model.
There's an episode where they actually decided to make it a character who had all these consistent jobs, all these consistent night jobs. The gargoyles and their foes kept swooping in, causing trouble at these places that he would work. He would get fired as a result of the collateral damage, and he would have to go and get a new job, and sure enough, they would all pop up, back up, and like lather, rinse, repeat. And so there's an episode where, as the B storyline, he is after Goliath for revenge. This nameless nobody background character.
I don't remember this episode, but this sounds glorious.
Beautiful, and I've brought it up on other shows before because it's just a magical thing, because Goliath and Hudson are dealing with a robot Macbeth, and this nameless nobody is just going through trying to get his revenge and failing at it miserably. It is a beautifully brilliant episode and a look at like the nameless background NPCs.
And I feel like that's something that you need to consider with stories like this, because otherwise it's just like, okay, no one else is important.
Well, let's take a step back.
Reeling it back in now that I've wandered off into my AU fantasy.
I'm the one that keeps bringing up Gargoyles for some reason. So
I'm the one that wandered off into the AU fantasy to begin with.
Be amazing. But to get back, talking about actions having consequences, something, and we were talking about this very briefly beforehand, but something that Audrey keeps doing is digging herself deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole, because she has had so many opportunities to air out all the dirty laundry. And this episode starts with Emma going, "You are telling me everything," and Audrey still holding back information, understandably so. But it would be so much easier on herself if she would just, go, okay, here's this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and I'm really sorry, but this and this and this and this and this. And it's hard for anybody to admit the truth. It's hard for anybody to verbally admit their wrongdoings and all of this torrential emotional stuff, especially when you're somebody who's had their heart broken, as she put it.
I'm looking also at the social structure for this, because we assume that it's taking place in present day. People have iPhones, etc., etc.
It is definitely taking place in present day, because the 90s was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Any sexuality that isn't straight is still very, very stigmatized, which is why you still get no homo as it's a punchline, but people still mean it. Mm-hmm. It's, again, I'm not qualified to talk about a lot of this, but needless to say, it's the town lesbian, that's looked down upon, that makes you an easy target, that's rough, and on top of that, you can't really tell your straight friend, I am head over heels in love with you, because with things the way they are, that's a good way to tank a friendship, that's a good way for things never to be the same way again, because it's like, I'm in love with you and I'm going to sit on that forever, because...
Well, it's the same with any friendship where one, regardless of whether it's straight or not. Because we saw that with Noah earlier too, with him talking to Audrey, and she's like, I love you, but I'm not, in love with you. That sort of thing. And
but there's more stigma doing it
of course
to a same-sex friend, because then you can't be like, can we still change in the same room, or is it weird? Are you looking at me now?
But
I said, there's still a lot of stigma around this.
It's the same. What I'm saying though is that it's the same thing in terms of you don't want to risk that friendship when there is that friendship involved too. Straight or not, if you are in love with your friend, you don't want to ruin it, because you clearly have a good thing going on. And so it was completely understandable, but as we see, Audrey has communication issues, and so it sounded like when Emma started getting new friends, it kind of sounds, just kind of from what they were going with in terms of the back and forth, that Emma wanted Audrey to be pulled in, not necessarily to be pulled into a completely new clique or a new group, but it didn't sound like she wanted to stop being friends with Audrey. It's just...
Wow, I didn't get that at all.
Well, yeah, no, because she's like, you wanted nothing to do with them. So Emma started making new friends, and from Emma's point of view, Audrey just started hating her for no reason, because she started making other friends that Audrey didn't want anything to do with. Those other friends are people like, I don't know, that girl who got killed in the very first episode, whose name I don't remember.
A lot of this episode was a little jarring.
Even season 1 Brooke. They weren't the nicest people.
They were terrible human beings.
They weren't the nicest people, but at the same time, Emma didn't necessarily see that. you know, again, she was just saying...
Wasn't Emma in the group of people that got the
she
video
was,
of Audrey and her
but things don't
girlfriend
immediately
released?
escalate to that point.
No.
No, Audrey and Emma had already had that rift for a good long while by the time that sort of thing happened. And as far as we can tell, it's not like these guys just immediately started being assholes. These things start slowly. Like anybody who has had, you know, friendships kind of rift and come apart as you get older and people find their way into different cliques, you know what I'm talking about. And this is something that because Audrey was in love with Emma, it was heightened and immediately made that much more personal and that much more of, as she perceived it, an attack.
I honestly don't. Again, this is a lot of the beginning of season 1. I think that might have been before we started doing these videos about it.
We started. Did we start at the very get-go? We needed this and as much of it as we could, which is probably why you don't remember it, because a lot of those first few episodes were glug 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 glug.
But
and the most interesting stuff was the Daisy stuff, and that's what we latched onto, and we didn't.
Words.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I wish they'd put a little bit of that in the last time on Scream. I know it's last season stuff, but a lot of it's like, that was like a year and some change ago, and many, many episodes. I don't remember those people's names. I only remember Brooke because she lived. So many of the people who died in the first few episodes who were, you know, the terrible people and the other friends and the people you expected to die, like, okay, I remember the head in the jacuzzi, but who the fuck was that guy and who the fuck was that girl?
You know, in all honesty, I would have to go and look it up. I couldn't tell you.
Exactly. I didn't remember that Emma and Audrey had had issues and had a huge friendship rift at the beginning of season 1. Like, there was a lot of detail that I did not remember. So now they're bringing it all in, and it's like, oh, well, it's this. Oh, well, it's that. Oh, well, it's this. Well, don't you remember that? And I'm like, I, as the audience, don't remember that.
The audience do.
And I wish you had devoted, like, 5 or 6 seconds of that last time on Scream to give us a little bit of that backstory again. Just remind us that this was a thing.
I'm willing to give them credit, though, because they've made a big point in this season of Audrey not wanting to screw up her relationship with Emma because things just started going well again. Because they hadn't been going well for a good long while. So,
well, yeah, most of the shitty friends are out of the way.
I'm willing to give this show the benefit of the doubt, and I'm willing to cut them some slack in that regard, because I remembered that things weren't going so well.
And as someone who has trouble remembering character names and small details that haven't been brought up in 4 freaking ever, I wish they'd done a little bit of a reminder. Well, just like, remember, this was how things occurred. And I will say, not every viewer is on your level. There are viewers that are on my level, and there are viewers that are not on my level who are also like, what the
Well, and to be fair, again, it was a long time ago, beginning of season 1, although a lot of people probably sat down and watched it on Netflix before season 2 came out, so for those people it hasn't been as long.
I'm thinking of the people who aren't big Netflix users. I'm thinking of my parents.
Okay.
Because
I don't think your parents would like this show, but
my parents personally no. But I feel like there are people in that age demographic who will watch the show but don't binge watch on Netflix and didn't go back and rewatch season 1 in preparation for season 2. Like, I feel like there's people who've seen these episodes once and don't really sit down and talk about them in a big social forum.
Who don't think about them to the degree that we do.
Exactly.
Or even, because right now we're going through these last few episodes pretty fast, so it's very fresh in our minds. If we were doing it week to week, or even like we were, you know, month to month, every few weeks.
Change between.
Like there are details that get lost because we're doing these in like quick succession of one another. It's a lot easier to go, oh yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. So
again, just from an editing perspective, from the decision of
just
what to
about
include,
like 6 more seconds. That's all it would have taken.
If you're gonna make an early chunk of season 1 this important, this late in season 2, freaking remind us what happened in that early chunk of season 1. Don't just be like, you remember that stuff, right? Let's go.
I mean,
It's like the stuff we covered in the first 3 weeks of the semester are on the yearly final, but they sure weren't in the review.
Damn it! I studied for this. But But yeah,
Pop
I mean,
quizzes.
good for the future binge watchers. Once season 2 is on Netflix as well, and they can just go boom, boom, and be like, oh yeah, I remember all that because it was
before the
because
future
it was
binge
a day
watchers,
ago for me.
Before the future binge watchers, it is airing weekly for people who still have cable.
Anyway. But anyway, to kind of get back to this episode again, no more tangents. Let's stay on topic.
That was on topic.
No, let's talk about the actual content of the episode, because this whole thing is about their relationship with one another and how they fell apart and how their rebuilding relationship is built on lies, and how the killer is using that to systematically tear their relationship apart, and how Noah and Zoe are collateral damage in this, and how I liked, it was a little predictable, but I really did like the framework of the streaming cameras using Noah's in, when he's buried underground in that Ryan Reynolds
stream.
Yeah, the live stream. One of the things I said is, I really hope this wasn't recorded from hours ago. And because that would be so heartbreaking, because that's what happened in Saw 2, is everything that they saw spoilers, everything that they saw that was happening had happened hours before, and if the cop in the movie had just listened to Jigsaw, everything would have worked out, because his son was indeed fine. And so I was like, I really hope Noah's recording hasn't been taken from a couple hours ago, and if he's not already dead.
No, Zoe's was.
But then that's what they did with Zoe. So it was a little predictable once they saved Noah, what was going to happen with her. That being said, it's still tragic. And at least they also gave the actress a kind of nice send-off in terms of having these small, very intimate, very sweet,
oxygen-deprived hallucinations.
Yeah. And so it's a very sad thing for the character, but it was really nice that they gave that actress a little bit of time, for kind of these lingering sweet moments.
They just killed the black girl.
They did, which is the second of Noah's love interests who have been people of color to bite the big one.
Series, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But, the side story is that while the cops are being completely left out of the loop on this one, as they go on, they put it, their scavenger hunt of death, I guess, good old Daisy and the sheriff are sitting here and recounting, we did this, someone's making us pay for
They know about us. Doing a second autopsy on
poor Piper. I'm not saying poor Piper, poor Daisy, because she's performed. This episode starts with her performing an autopsy on her daughter
for the second time.
That's messed up.
And evidently whoever dug up Piper and refrigerated her body, because I guess they did manage to dredge her out of the lake and bury her at some point.
And this person straight up dug her up.
And, okay, that makes more sense than someone putting on a Brandon James mask and going diving trying to find the body.
I can't see with this
I will
mask
say that's
on.
what I was imagining happening for the recovery of her body. So this makes
Ghostface with his cloak and a mask just going...
And a snorkel. Doggy paddling over the mask.
Oh, that's adorable.
Just doggy paddling in the lake, trying to find the body. So this makes a lot more sense than my mental images, is what I'm saying.
What world do you live in? I want to go there.
Very happy. So this makes more sense, but evidently whoever dug her up and stuck her in the fridge also hollowed her out and put a pig's heart in there. 'Cause sure, why not? I will say, just again, a very gruesome opening, but the shot where it's, the flesh pulled open and her reaching in and the camera is from the inside of the, oh my god, that
really
was
well done.
Good shot.
No, there were a lot of really good shots in this episode, and again, really good lighting choices, especially during the hallucination scenes, and during the flashbacks. And hey, lo and behold, we get some flashbacks from the 90s. And we find out that Brandon James actually did seemingly survive the shooting, and that the sheriff
took him home?
Yeah.
I guess.
And so, like, and at the very end of it, he walks away, either walks away to leave town or to just go into hiding. I guess just generally speaking, go into hiding. But he leaves a message for Daisy saying, "Don't forget me." And that could have been
what
threat.
I imagine would be their little communication.
Boo Radley.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, is that she said in season 1 that he used to leave her notes and things. It was their spot. And so if he is back, she's thought he's dead for all these years. If he is back, she's like, this is probably the only good way to communicate with him. And with that note that he left, it could actually be perceived as one of two things. One, a very sweet, don't forget me as I'm shunned out of town and have to go into hiding because everyone thinks I'm dead, and everyone thinks I'm a monster, etc., etc. Or it could very well have been a, don't forget me because you did this to me, because she cooperated with the cops and got him shot. I highly doubt it was a threat, because that doesn't seem to be the type of person that Brandon James actually was.
At least from what we've heard.
Yeah. And again, that's from Daisy's very biased perspective, but we've never been given the whole story.
Yeah.
And so, to be fair, again, one of two ways, but she leaves a note for him saying, stay away from her. And who?
Cut to fucking Eli in the bushes watching. How long have you been? What do you do? There's a reason you have a restraining. What the? Yeah, we saw him for a whole 10 seconds in this episode, but damn, those were a good 10 seconds.
It was really well done. And now that Zoe's dead and Myers is dead, he's the only one out of the I'm almost 100% positive that he's a Ghostface left. So with Zoe dead and with Myers dead and with Piper definitely dead, who's left? We have the possibility still that it's Brandon James. We have the possibility that it's Gustavo. We have the possibility that
it's still one of Brandon James's family members.
Yeah.
And again, we're still working with the idea that there are two of them. One of whom is a little more focused on the Emma and the younger social aspect of things, and one of whom is very much focused on the past. Who knows about the farm and the carcasses and the pig hearts and what happened back then.
Is just as interested in making the previous generation suffer as much as the current generation.
Yeah. Which makes me think we have two very different ghost faces.
Yes. And again, either working together, but with, or working straight up independently of one another.
At this point, I'm starting to think working together because of that little display with the pig strung up in the same way that the girl had been at the party, and then the hand was there. And at this point, there's too many pieces that came together, especially in that part, for me to be like, they're at odds with one another. They're not working together.
Yeah. No.
Like, I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so either. I'm saying maybe down the line it would be great, or I would love to see a horror movie where they do have that sort of thing that's not just a half-assed, like, cobbled together mess like I've seen some examples do.
I feel like you've seen some things.
There's definitely, I guess, spoiler alert, the town that dreaded sundown. It was a 70s horror movie. They did I don't know if it's officially considered a remake or a reboot, but they did a newer version of it a couple of years ago. And they did the two killers thing. And they did it with, the two of them had very different agendas. And one of whom actually was somebody that you think is dead, gets killed at the very beginning of the movie. But then when they do their big reveal towards the end, it just seemed really shoddy and cobbled together. And so I would love to see at odds and actually
they catch
have it
someone
work.
who had admitted to be Ghostface, and then the murders keep happening, and they're like, Like, oh no, I did this, and that. I didn't do any of those. I don't know what that is. I mean, I admire their work. Their work is amazing. We must have been inspired by the same people. But I didn't do any of that.
I've literally been here.
I helped you discover that body. I was here when this person was killed. And I was with this other person the whole time.
There's a copycat murderer
we found
afoot.
that body. Someone's taking credit for it.
We need to stop coming up with ideas for screenplays. Stop. But anyway, again, to get back to this episode, we're running out of suspects. And I love that we're running out of suspects because that means things, upping the ante. I love it. I still think
we're still throwing things at the wall, but the wall's getting a lot smaller.
Yeah, the wall's getting smaller for sure. I still think it's Eli, and watch, next episode I'm going to be like, poor Eli. We knew him well. What
we actually didn't know shit about him, and I'm kind of glad he's gone, but... well, now I have no fucking clue.
I'm still thinking Eli, and
someone
if
else,
I were
capital S, capital E.
Who knows? It might still be Lang. That whole thing in the school might have all been for show.
Could have been, but then you'd have a hard time guaranteeing that she would be out but not dead after a fall down the staircase.
Exactly. Very true.
And then what did the janitor prevent?
And then also that totally leaves, the other Ghostface high and dry, having to take care of everything themselves. What happens if something goes wrong?
So that works really well with the two ghost faces at odds theory. But how the hell would Eli know all of this stuff about the dandelion farm and the pig hearts and where the body is and all of that? That speaks to someone who's been there since season 1.
Or specifically who's been working with Piper since season 1, as they're inferring, but we haven't seen, it could...
Yeah. Eli showed up in town a couple of episodes in. If he is a ghost face, he got recruited later in the game. He is not the ghost face. And if he is, they're going to have a fuck ton of explaining to do. Because that's a huge stretch.
Yep. Yeah, so... and it could be that there's an older person at work. Maybe it's Eli and Eli's mom. Maybe there's, again, Brandon James' family. Who knows? But right now I'm kind of out of ideas. Ready for the next episode so that maybe I can start pointing fingers again.
Maybe Brooke's dad is funding some of this shit.
Maybe
he's kind of...
Maybe.
Because he'd know a lot about all this.
He's known a lot about a lot of stuff. So who knows? Or who knows? Maybe it's Emma's dad. Maybe he snapped and decided that, he was going to take matters into his own hands. I don't know why he would feel the need to avenge the death of his mortal enemy's daughter. I don't know. I don't know. I got nothing.
Save his hallucinating kid from himself. I saved you from me.
I'm the hero now.
I didn't see me in the forest.
Again, whoever it is, they definitely want to punish everyone involved.
Both sides.
This whole show was about making Audrey and Emma. I just turned it into a ship name. Audrey and Emma.
Thanks you.
Audrey and Emma suffer. As well as, Daisy and the sheriff as well, because the sheriff got his first call in this episode.
Who is this? And we're sitting here going, duh.
Who do you think it is? What show do you think you're in?
This isn't Trevor.
It's not Trevor. It's never Trevor. It's never been Trevor.
It's never Trevor. Jump like a fish.
But I like that, just kind of the only other thing I want to say is I like that, we do have all of these grievances out there from Audrey. We still don't know 100% if she's hidden anything else, because it's just like this little Russian nesting doll of just lies upon lies upon lies.
But I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's, even if it was supposed to be a documentary for Brandon James, and this thing, I'm sure that was part of it, and I know sticking it to Emma was part of it because we got to see the fun little letter, but it was still genuinely reaching out to someone and trying to make friends, and then being like, oh, this person is my friend. oh, this person wasn't there when this murder happened, they said it's not them, and I believe them because they're my friend, she got horribly taken advantage of. She's young, she was terribly hurt, and she was reaching out to someone to try to find some friendship, to try to find some stability. And Piper absolutely took advantage of her in more ways than one. And then by the time Audrey got around to, well, crap, I think my friend is actually killing people despite what she said, it was too late for a lot of people. So you can sit there and blame her and say, you ought to know better, you ought to do this, you should have done this is all your fault. But she couldn't have known that Piper was going to start murdering people. Piper had an alibi for Rachel. What's her name, Rachel? The girlfriend who was strangled.
One of the murders.
I can't remember, but Audrey's girlfriend, her murder. Piper had an alibi for that. She was with Audrey at the time. And, you know, you have a new friend and you want to say, oh yeah, I have great memories of this place. Let me show you. This is great. We did this. It was fantastic.
And also here, I'll tell you some stuff about your sister, since you haven't worked up the nerve to tell her yet yourself.
So here's some things about her so that, you know, you have common ground and stuff you can talk about when you finally get around to. And then it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. And then you kind of go, oh, wow, I fucked up.
And she's been riddled with guilt ever since.
So there's really no way she could have known that reaching out to Piper would cause this. Like, that may have been the impetus for Piper coming, but that doesn't mean it's Audrey's fault. Continued decisions afterwards that were bad decisions after being cognizant of what happened, yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, that needs to be addressed. You brought her here in the first place, it's all your fault. Doesn't quite follow.
Yeah, no. Audrey's biggest problem wasn't so much bringing Piper to Lakewood. It was the, oh shoot, I'm in a hole. Dig, 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 dig.
We're gonna escape to China.
If I keep digging, eventually no one will ever be able to see that I'm in this hole.
The hole will be so deep they won't even realize it's
it's my hole, it was made for me.
Oh God. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh no, you went there.
I did. I was speaking more Steven Universe, but I know what it's referencing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a monster. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ugh.
Now that I've admitted fault, can we move? Can this repair our friendship and we can move forward?
I'm a little fucked up. You brought it up. It's your fault.
I blame you.
Wait. I'm the blonde person. I have to do that. I blame you.
Why? Why did I make that reference? So I think that just about does it. Unless, because I've spouted off my theories. Do you have any other theories as to
God, not really.
Somebody's dead?
At this point, it's just like we're this close to the end. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's
Power
just
through.
go.
Yeah. All right. Well,
people are dying.
Dude, people are dead now. So, Katie, where can people go if they want to find you?
On Twitter and YouTube at Kiaxet, that is Kiaxet. If you are interested in us reacting to non-horror things, my YouTube channel is where that lives.
I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. Be sure to follow Silver Screams at Silver_Screams. Like us on Facebook. And leave a comment below. We want to know, what is your favorite horror movie that has never been made? Send us your screenplay ideas.
Or your favorite thing that you've seen one horror movie do and you haven't seen anything else do it. My favorite is Wrong Genre Savvy in Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh,
to
that
the
was
point
so beautiful.
Where it shapes the outcome of the movie and is so well done. For Wrong Genre Savvy, it's thinking that you're in a certain genre when you're actually in something else, or thinking that you are a certain role in that genre when you're something else. For Tucker and Dale versus Evil, they're kind of in a comedy, but the college students are absolutely convinced that they are in a horror movie.
We got your friend!
And in a similar idea, it's being in a horror movie, knowing you're in a horror movie, thinking that you're the hero when you're really just the dumb jock who dies second. That sort of thing. So that's my favorite thing that I've seen done really, really well once and never anywhere else. So what's that for you guys?
I like
Something
that.
that was like, this is amazing. No one else has ever done it except for this one place.
I like that. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
It's a thinker.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's not that it's been only done once and like never again, but I actually really like, and again, not a great movie, but there's a scene in Halloween 5 where Michael Myers takes off his mask and he just has this very, very quiet, very sweet moment with his niece who he's about to kill, but like they just sit there for a second and just have this moment of like, it didn't have to be this way. And then immediately he goes like berserk, and it was just like, what was that? What was that? Very few horror movies make me look at the monster and go, what? And make me feel things. And that was a bit that made me feel things and then made me even more terrified when we went back to monster mode, because I was like, no, there's a person there. There's a person there.
There's potential.
And again, not a great movie, and what it led to in the subsequent movie was also super awful, but just like, I'm just sitting here going like, huh. I just felt something for Michael Myers. What? So, and that's the only time I can think of the Halloween movies doing that, and I can think of very few masked killer movies where that happens. So that's probably my favorite.
So yeah,
Let us know.
Put them in the comments. Tell us what you think.
Yep, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you all next time.
Words!
I'm sorry!